Hey everybody, welcome to or welcome back to my channel, depending on whether or not you've been here before. So we're now a little bit less than 2 weeks out from my first marathon, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the training plan that I've been following for this marathon and the half marathons that I've been doing earlier this year and late last year. So I got my training plan from a guy on YouTube, a runner on YouTube from England, London specifically, named Ben Parks. You can actually see his name on my hat. I have followed his channel now for about 18 months, pretty much since I started back up running again, and have found his story to be very similar to mine and have drawn a great deal of inspiration from it. And I found on his website through purchasing this hat that he offers training plans for beginners and non-beginners alike. But his beginner plans for half marathons and marathons are free. I think he offers training plans for 5Ks and 10Ks as well. But yeah, when I decided to run a half marathon last year at the end of summer, going into fall, I downloaded his plan, plugged it into my calendar, and I trained to run a 2 hour and 5 minute marathon. And so he offers a number of different finish times and speeds that go along with them that you can follow in your training plan. So I followed those speeds for 12 weeks, trained for that 2:05 finish, and I think I finished with about 2 hours, 4 minutes, and I think it was somewhere around 40 seconds. So I had about 20 seconds to spare. So I met my goal, and I think that being said, I think that speaks for itself as far as whether or not I would endorse his training plans. So I decided to go, when I decided this year was going to be the year I'd try my first marathon, to go with another one of his training plans. So I downloaded that, started training for that in May of this year. And what I really like about his training plans is that there's usually 3 to 4 days of running per week, with a number of rest days, strength training built in. But there's a lot of flexibility as well. And so if you have a busy schedule like mine with a family, where you have things going on, especially in the summertime, it affords you the flexibility to be able to shift days around. And so I've been able to do that and pretty much be able to do all of my training, missing only a few days here and there. I'm training technically for a 4 hour and 15 minute finish, according to the speeds that I'm running in my training runs. But to be honest with you, this being my first marathon attempt, I am more or less going to be looking to finish. So I'm not going to hold myself too accountable as far as when I finish. I think what's more important to me is that I enjoy the experience and care to repeat it at some point. I found that to be the case with a number of other channels that I've followed. For people that are running their first marathons, they always say that they train for a certain speed, and invariably you hit a wall and end up with a little bit of disappointment at the end because you didn't meet that goal. And so I think I'm going to save myself a little bit of that aggravation and try to really just enjoy the run. If I end up meeting that 4 hours and 15 minutes, great. If I end up with 4 hours and 45 minutes, still ran a marathon. So if you've watched any of my previous videos, especially the last one in particular, the issue I had coming out of my last week of peak training was at the end of my 20-mile run, which actually went quite well. The only problem was about 2 or 3 days later, I could barely walk and put weight on my right foot. And so that kind of prompted me to deviate from my training schedule for the first time in 15 weeks and to more or less not run on a couple of days. And so I ended up spending last week scrambling to get a doctor's appointment and an x-ray. Basically found out that there were no fractures, no breaks, nothing like that, and have stayed off of it for really about a week and a half now. And the pain has really starting to go away, which is good news. I do feel a little bit of tightness in my foot, but if things continue in the direction they're going for the next 10 or 12 days, I have no problem standing on the start line feeling like I can run the run that I need to. The next thing I wanted to touch on is this thing that people call Maranoia. And so it's starting to hit me a little bit, especially now that I'm kind of taking it easy with training, given my injury that I'm nursing. I'm starting to feel that kind of sense of, I don't want to say dread because that would be overstating it, but it's kind of that feeling of like, do I really have what it takes? And you really only can draw from the experiences you have on your long runs, and so it's not a great frame of reference. But like I said, when I ran my 20-mile long run, I really wanted to focus that run in particular on just taking it 1 mile at a time and just chipping away instead of looking at the big picture and building it into this thing that can feel overwhelming. And so it was very important to me when I started that run to just take it 1 mile at a time. That's all you can do, is put one foot in front of the other, and it's cliche to say it, but that's all I did. And for about 3.5 hours, I took it 1 mile at a time, and yes, it did hurt to finish that 20-mile run, but it felt so much better than some of my shorter long runs. But yeah, back to the Maranoia, you do, and I think a lot of runners, including really experienced runners, feel that sense of kind of, am I ready for this? Do I have what it takes? What if things go wrong? You kind of, especially when you're doing something for the very first time, you wonder, is it gonna go well? I think a lot of people will feel it up till race day, and then from what I've seen and what I've read, and it seems to go away or subside once you're standing on the start line, and all you have to do is the thing that you've been doing so much over these last 15, 18 weeks, is just put one foot in front of the other and survive. My bit of advice to you that are getting ready to run a marathon, whether it's your first one, whether it's your 5th one, is that I would say that you've trained all this time for a reason. You've stuck with it. You've done it in rain or shine. You're seasoned at this point and as good a shape probably as you'll ever be. And to give yourself a pat on the back and some credit for having done all that, and to just worry about what you can control. And it's easier said than done at times, speaking for myself as well. And so I would say just focus on, what lies in front of you, and make things simple where you can. And so I would say a lot of that can be done in the days leading up to the race. And so my suggestions would be, develop your plan if you have a chance or the ability to do so. Scope out the course, whether or not there's hills, things to look out for. Just kind of get a feel for the course. I did that last year for my first half marathon, and in fact most of my long runs were on the course, thankfully. And so I had scouted it very well. I knew exactly when I needed to slow up a little bit, when I could actually make up some ground. And I think this weekend I'm going to drive out to where the Wineglass Marathon is, out in Bath and Corning area in New York, and I'm going to drive the course and get a feel for where the hills are. And I know there aren't many. I think it's a net downhill course, so it should be a pretty fast one. And I've been running on a lot of hills, so hopefully it feels as easy as it should. But yeah, I want to get a feel for the course. I want to get a feel for where it is I'm supposed to be on the morning of race day, where I'm supposed to park, where the park is in relation to the start line. But I'm also, over the next week and a half, going to be putting my kit together and putting together a checklist, making sure that I have figured out what my pre-meal or pre-race meal is going to be the night before, what I'm going to have for breakfast the morning of when I need to wake up, and more or less draw out the plan of what the day before and what race day looks like, in order to kind of make those things automatic, so you're worried less about the non-running part of race day and can focus just on going through those motions, checking off those check boxes, and getting to the start line where we essentially get to run our victory lap. I want those of you who are running your first marathon I would love it if you would drop a comment and let me know which race you're running. Let me know how long you've been training. Let me know what training plan you followed, because this is all new to me, and I will probably run one of these again, and I'm always on the lookout and researching for other marathons, other training plans out there, and really just figuring things out day by day. And so I encourage that discussion, and I look forward to it. I hope that you'll engage. Believe in yourself, because you have done all the work. You have run, you have strength trained, you've hit the gym, you've done it all in spite of warm weather, rainy weather, and you deserve all the credit in the world for having done this. So I would say, believe in yourself, have fun. This is something we get to do. We did choose to do it, but we get to do it. And that's something I am trying to do now too, is to show gratitude. Instead of looking at a big run ahead of me as a chore or a job, I look at it as something that I am fortunate enough to be able to do, because there are a lot of people out there that would love to be able to run like we do, that can't. And so that's something we always have to kind of keep in the back of our minds, and just be grateful for the fact that we get to have these experiences, and that we've been able to stay healthy, or at least mostly healthy in my case, over the last handful of weeks, in order to be able to get to the start line on race day. So that being said, I will probably be discussing next week kind of more about my pre-race prep, and we'll cover probably all the way up to the day or so leading up to the race. And then we'll look for another video after, as far as my experience running my first marathon. So again, thank you guys for watching. Really appreciate the support. Really appreciate you stopping by the channel. Words of encouragement. I'm grateful for all of it. But I want to wish you all luck. And your first or your fifth marathon, whatever it may be. I hope that your race day goes extremely well, and I hope that you have nothing but good memories to come from it. And I look forward to talking about those with you all once this is all said and done. So with that being said, take care, stay running, and enjoy your marathon.